together, so we can't really separate.
But had the relationships actually affected? I mean, it's a crisis hour, and I think we feel like that things have changed. But I mean, do they really change?
You'll find out.
So that I believe is a crisis hour, and I mean things just go on. Because we have another force, you know, that is public memory, and that tend to be short.
It tends to be short.
Yeah. And we get back to normals very often once the crisis and things of that kind are over. So, but anyway, I mean, it does have an influence. Good morning, Paul Saab.
Good.
You're welcome to this panel.
Dr.
Faridi Saab,
it says
this is Dr. Faridi.
Assalamualaikum,
Assalamualaikum.
Professor Imran. How are you, sir?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, sir. Walaikum assalam. And this is great to have all of you on the panel. It's really an opportunity for me.
It's our pleasure.
This is, I think, one of the best opportunities created by COVID, that we are being able to meet learned people like you.
No, it's likewise.
It's welcome.
Yes, Professor Nawab, how are you, sir, today? And Dr. Mohammed Nayyar and Veronica, how are you all today?
All good, all good. I'm still not sleepy, so awake. Which is
I understand. Yeah, it will you'll be at 6 o'clock, right? In the morning there.
Yes, and I didn't go to bed at all, so I decided to stay up.
Yes.
I will sleep straight after this webinar. By the way, Dr. Rishad,
Paul जो है ना, इनका Dr. Rishad Faridi है, इनका नाम बदलना है, और दूसरे Paul actually
Paul Epping.
allow करना पड़ेगा.
You know, I can change the name myself. I can change it myself. You know, I can change it here. Don't worry, I can change it myself. Yeah, give me a second. I'm changing it. Here we go. Yeah, I changed the name.
Dr. Rishad, what is your area of specialization, by the way?
I'm into the marketing.
I apologize
sir.
for my ignorance, but since we are meeting for the first time, and of course, have to utilize the time.
Yes, my PhD, sir, is in consumer behavior. Right.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
great. So I'm into the marketing, and I have a good experience of in corporates as well as in academia also. So yeah, and I also have some academics in supply chain also. So we moved in 2003 to Canada. So I did supply chain courses there, working in corporates, and then so 9 years in academia in Saudi Arabia. So I have a good balance of both the things, right? Yeah. Yes.
That's great. That's great. I'm going to have it as an opportunity to meet you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, I appreciate. Yeah, thank you so much.
I think consumer is one of the most vital force which has been influenced by COVID-19.
Yes, definitely. The way they shop, the buying pattern has changed, and the new paradigm about the choices the consumers have online. So there are a lot of things taking place.
That's very true.
Paul is here, I think so. But
yes, he would be joining in a minute, I believe. Yes.
Yeah, he's there.
Good morning, Paul, and welcome to the panel.
Paul, can you unmute?
Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, everybody. Yes. I'm good. Thank you. So eventually, I'm in.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much for joining the panel.
Sure.
Great.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes. Dr. Said Malki is, he's a professor, is also here.
How are you doing?
Good, Professor.
Faridi.
How are you? Yes, good to see you.
That's good, man. Where's the
what a beautiful day with such a mashallah eminent personalities. It will be a really rock and roll today.
Nice. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, Professor Syed Malik.
Salam. How are you doing? Yes, sir. Alaikum salam.
Welcome to the panel.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Professor.
joining, sir, everybody.
Thank
So
you.
nice of you.
Nawab.
Hello, Dr. Saeed. Keval hal? Tamam?
Tamam.
You forget Arabic, I think.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Welcome. This is great.
My
It's
son
really
is going to join very shortly. He's coming. So by the time, Professor Imran, you just talk to them about what is
Sure, sure. I mean, this is an opportunity for me. All the panelists know you, sir. You are a learned person from the department, but anyway, thanks for giving me the opportunity to be able to interact such a lucid gallery of people. And
Oh,
it's an
thank you.
opportunity
Thank
for the
you.
department, for the nation and this is really an opportunity which has been created by COVID-19. Otherwise, had it not been there, perhaps we would not have thought of joining this type of webinars, at least in near future. We had hardly been looking
Well,
at this type of
we
initiative.
hope that we hope that this is going to be hopefully the start of some from academic collaboration.
Sure, sir.
Thanks to technology, we can still hopefully we can connect and communicate in the future.
Definitely, sir. This is going to complement the regular system.
Yeah.
The normal of yesterday will not be the normal of tomorrow, and I think this will build up and at least a complementary thing.
Yeah.
Though I am quite apprehensive that the political systems might be overusing this type of opportunity to really cut down the cost in the regular systems, and that would be devastating for the education system. I personally believe maybe I'm a little apprehensive, but these possibilities are there. But for sure, this is going to help the academia platform to build up the combination of the off and online things very, very effective.
Yes.
I'm sure that especially countries like India and less developed and developing countries will have an opportunity to have access and exposure and guidance from you people. So that would immensely benefit the lower strata nations, I'll say.
Clearly, I had the honor to visit India, I think, back in 2007, and I was really amazed by the fast pace of development of the country, and definitely is a lot of when it comes to economics, it's definitely there's a lot of learning that can be across developing nations, advanced as well as developing, and I think this is a learning opportunity for all of us, definitely.
Definitely, it is a different dynamics at India because we have such a large population and majority of them really come to a very lower class, and therefore the economics is different because of the given fact that there are two very peculiar features about Indian economy. The first one is that propensity to consume, having a very, very large economic strata which comes to lower middle or poor class. The propensity to consume is very high, and therefore the chances of any substantial fall in the economy as a crisis is less likely because consumption goes on. That's one thing. Second thing is we have a propensity to save in our culture. People do save a lot of money, and that is the part of the culture, and it is reinvested. So, and I think I have read somewhere, it was very interesting that Asians are often hated by the Europeans because one of the forces is this because we save very
hard. Definitely, Doctor. I think one of the key elements of India is also democracy.
Yes, of course.
It may take a longer time, but once it's settled, and what is there is will be sustained because it's democracy despite the challenges. And I think throughout the two-day conference, I think that's an event like this. It reflects really communication and openness of the nation, and I think that's even for a country, with all the respect, like for China is a great nation through its civilization, but I'm talking about the political system. I think that is one thing for a nation to benefit from the markets or from the benefits of the markets, but definitely by the end of the day, the political system is so important, its openness and its transparency. Otherwise, it's very difficult because growth is one thing and development is another. as you know, Professor.
Definitely, definitely. That is an absolute advantage, I'll say. That's very true.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Oh, good morning, sir. We have our Honorable Vice Chancellor with us. So please, Honorable Chairman, I would request you to start the program.
Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good morning to all. We are honored this morning by the presence of Professor Tariq Mansoor sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh, who has very kindly consented to preside over this international webinar on invisible opportunities post-COVID-19. Sir, on behalf of the Commerce faculty and on my own behalf, I welcome you at our webinar and thank you for sparing time for us despite your hectic schedule. Welcome Professor Imran Salim, Dean Faculty of Commerce, for gracing the occasion as a moderator. We would like to take this opportunity to express our hearty welcome on my behalf and on our department's behalf to Professor Saeed Malki, Department of Economics, State University of New York at Newport and member of American Economic Association. A warm welcome to our alumni, Dr. Muhammad Rishad Faridi, Assistant Professor, Department of Marketing, Prince Sattam bin Abdulaziz University, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Very important to share with you all that his father was also an MU alumni who did his MA in Economics in 1959 and was Senior House of Morrison Court. In particular, I take this opportunity to extend a warm welcome to a big shot, Mr. Paul Epping, Chairman and co-founder of Exponential United Arab Emirates. Now, may I welcome in a very special way to Ms. Veronica Waziri, Gender Communication Educator and Certified Relationship Coach, United Kingdom. It gives me great pleasure to welcome a galaxy of attendees who are participating from different countries and from different corners of our country. Khushamdeed once again. Respected delegates, experts, let me share a few words about this program. As we know that the impact of coronavirus, COVID-19, is being felt by all the businesses around the world. Leaders are navigating a broad range of interrelated issues and span from keeping their economies and customers safe, shoring up cash and liquidity, reorienting operations, and navigating complicated government support programs. Pandemic COVID-19 has affected the entire world. The whole world is now adapting to the new normal amid a pandemic. Several industries have realized the drawbacks of being excessively dependent on manufacturing in a single country and are now looking to expand the geographic spread of their facilities. India is fast emerging as world's manufacturing hub. Our experts in today's webinar will discuss the invisible opportunities post-COVID-19. I'm sure that the attendees will find the experience of this webinar more highly valuable and memorable. Welcome you all once again and thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome, sir.
Now I request Honorable Vice Chancellor to give his remarks.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate the Dean, Professor Imran Salim, Dean Faculty of Commerce, Professor Imran Salim, and the Chairperson, Professor Nawab Ali Khan, and all the other persons associated with this webinar, which is on invisible opportunities post-COVID-19. I'm sure that the deliberations of this webinar will be useful to all of us. And I'm very happy to note that the Department of Commerce has earlier also organized a number of webinars regarding online teaching and online examinations and some other pertinent topics. Historically, pandemics, they always have profound effects on the economic, political, and social life of all the countries in the world, as well as on the whole world taken together. In the 5th century, when the plague came, the Byzantine Empire was in Europe and it collapsed because half of the population of Europe was wiped out in this plague. So there were no soldiers and the economy became so weak that the entire Byzantine Empire collapsed. And the plague was supposed to be the main reason for this. Then in 1665, when the Black Plague came, it had important political, economic, and social ramifications in the whole of Europe. Because one was that the minorities, they were targeted. The Jews, they were targeted in that plague. Because the rumor was spread that by some Christians that the Jews, they are poisoning the wells. And because the wells, they are being poisoned, the plague was being spread. This was totally false. But a lot of Jews, they were massacred. And a lot of Jews, they also migrated to Russia and Poland due to the discrimination and the massacres which took place, especially in France and Germany, as well as in Italy. So the Pope repeatedly said that Jews, they are not responsible because plague is also occurring in those settlements where the Jews, they don't live. So if the Jews, they are responsible for poisoning the wells, then how the plague is occurring in those parts? But it had a lot of ramifications. There were a lot of social ramifications also, because the labor became very expensive, especially in the United Kingdom and Northern Europe. The wages of the laborers, they increased by 2 to 3 times. The King of England, he issued the order that the wages will remain the same as they were earlier before the plague, but they could not be implemented on the ground. And the wages, they tripled. Because at that time, all the landowners, they were the nobles, and all the tillers, they were the laborers. So once the wages increased, socially also they moved up the ladder. Economically, when they moved up the ladder, socially also they moved up the ladder. So it had a profound impact. The COVID-19 pandemic will also affect us politically, economically, and socially. All the countries in the world, they will be affected. The dependence on China will decrease, because China, as you know, your people of commerce, it has got an important role in the supply chain. So it is a veto in the supply chain. Most of the countries, they will not accept this, and gradually, I think, many manufacturing units, they'll move away from China to countries like Indonesia and India and Vietnam and Malaysia and other Southeast Asian countries, South Asian countries, including India. So that will be one thing which is very clear. This is going to happen. Not now, but maybe in the next 5-10 years. Then it will also have a lot of effect on India also, because the migratory labor will not going to come back in short term. So there will be shortage of labor, especially in the industrialized states of Maharashtra, Gujarat, Telangana, and Tamil Nadu, and a lot of medium scale industries, they are situated, automobiles industries, they are situated. It will have a lot of impact, because the migratory worker, they are not going to come back in the short term. And labor is going to become very expensive. Not very expensive, but it is going to become expensive. Then what the full impact will be there on the world as well as on India, only time will tell. We cannot foresee everything. It depends upon so many factors. How soon we are going to get a drug for COVID-19? Can we get a vaccine, and in how much time we will get the vaccine? You see, for some viral diseases, we have not been able to get the vaccine. For HIV, we have not been able to get the vaccine. But we have very effective drugs. So HIV, which was a very big issue a few decades back, the world has overcome that issue because the drugs, they are very effective. We have the treatment for HIV, though we don't have the prevention. So let us see whether we get a vaccine, when we get a vaccine. Can we get the vaccine by September, October, or by the end of the year, or in early 2021? Can we get effective drugs in a few months to treat this virus? So there are many ifs and buts. We cannot say anything at this time. Only time will tell. But one thing is very clear, that it will have a profound effect on the economic and social condition in the world, as well as on India and on all other countries. And there are many opportunities also. Every crisis presents opportunities. So there will be a lot of opportunities. Some may be visible, and as in your webinar topic, there are many opportunities. They'll be invisible. Economic opportunities definitely will be there. Let us see how many opportunities they come our way and how the world adapts to these opportunities. Because one opportunity will be the world will become more digitalized. Now we are all communicating by electronic means. Earlier, even for small meetings, I used to go to Delhi, but now we are all holding video conferences, and we have got used to this. And it's so easy also and useful also, because people from all over the world, they can join on webinar. But definitely we have opportunities. Online education, online teaching and assessment, they will also become popular in the years to come. So there will be invisible opportunities in every field, whether it is educational field or economics or other spheres of life. Definitely changes will be there. But how things they turn out, only time will tell. So I once again congratulate Professor Imran Salim and Professor Nawab Ali Khan for organizing this webinar. And I also welcome all the delegates and resource persons who have joined this program. And I'm sure that the deliberations, they'll be useful for all of us. And the topic is also very relevant topic. So I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. I think the message is very vital and clear that all the pandemics across the world and across the history have a profound impact on the economies and the nations, whether it is economic, whether it is social, whether it is political, or in the modern world, whether it is digital. And I think that is one of the most profound impacts. We have the opportunities as well as threats, because I strongly feel that if the opportunities are capitalized optimally, then I think that it is going to be beneficial for the world economy, world history. But if the things are lost and they are not taken up very effectively, then it poses different and new challenges before the world community. I am pretty sure that the world economy, the world system has somewhat going to structurally change, and so is going to be a change at the very micro level, which I believe comes to as personal as communications, on which I'm sure that Veronica will talk about, and the economy. We have Said sir and many consumer, which is one of the vital factors. We have Rashid Bhai, Faridi Bhai. So all these issues are to be touched upon today. And I'm sure that we would be in a position to come up with the opportunities, single out, flag it. Most of us know it, but we have to really flag it, and we have to understand that how to capitalize it optimally. So I would request the panelists to please initiate the discussion.
Oh, thank you. So may I start or?
Sure, sir. Please.
Okay.
By all means.
Definitely. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed Mr. Chairman. Definitely insightful thoughts about the effect of the pandemic, as well as the opportunities, specifically with respect to the digital economy. And but I think talking about opportunities, it's also requires to assess the
Sure.
risk of such pandemic, because there are opportunities but also risks. I did prepare in a way formal slides, but I don't know if I can just proceed and share the slide with you, or
Most
in the
welcome,
meantime-
sir. That's no issue.
Yes, okay. Oh, sure. Okay, let me see. Okay, I believe you can see my screen, right, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, you can see my screen, sir? You can see my
Yes.
screen?
Yes, of course.
It is.
Okay, well, I would like to, yeah, definitely the topic is about opportunities, but I will talk about the context of the United States and also some other examples from the European Union, because assessing already the immediate effects and to be able to say, okay, what are the measures needed, and also in terms of policy, as the esteemed chairman definitely is going to shape the really economic relations, but also political relations. There's already a debate about diversifying the trade partners, or should we continue concentrating, with all the respect to China, which is a great nation, but somehow the dependence vis-a-vis the supply chain on China, on one hand, on the other hand, somehow, that's my opinion, the lack of transparency that emerged at the beginning of this pandemic, because with integration, with globalization, there are lots of opportunities for a nation, but also I think there are also commitments in terms of transparency and democratization. I think there's another topic, but maybe for another discussion. But for the case of United States, I briefly prepare a few points with respect to the potential economic opportunities at the aftermath of the corona pandemic. This is started in China, as you know, esteemed audience, and it spread to affected people in 185 countries. In the United States, that's it's led to an increase that's unemployment rate that's hit a record high, as well as also lots of concerns about whether the country is moving toward recession. In Germany, a country known by with the standards of the European Union, with pretty high, the economic growth, but it is even Germany in April 2020, the unemployment rate rose by 0.7 percentage. This is a chart that shows the unemployment benefits and how they rose here in the United States. Around 30 million people in the United States have filed for unemployment benefits in the last 6 weeks, because it's not, the economy has been really since almost a decade growing. The United States has been recording one of the highest economic growth among advanced nations. And this is something that's just happened. It just happened that's unexpected in terms of how the pandemic really affected the global economy. So, but yeah, indeed. So the unemployment benefits, you can see that it's a record also in terms of the measure taken by the government to kind of ease the impact of the coronavirus. The impact of the coronavirus also on the stock markets, and for different stock markets, the Nikkei, Dow Jones, FTSE. So it's, as you know, it's serious in literature, whether the environments and everything that's around the external environments of the economy and how they impact the financial markets. Good news. I mean, it's not news, but it's a fact that the country, United States, has one of the distinguished infrastructure, financial infrastructure, and the net FDI positive. But still, for that's it was erratic the way the stock market reacted here in New York Stock Exchange to. Of course, in the short run, it's a lot of psychology involved, there's a lot of fears. but I think that fundamentals are consistent in terms of innovation and productivity. And so I do expect that such trend will be reversed, as Mr. Chairman mentioned. Indeed, there is an uncertainty, and potentially with some good news about the vaccine and about medicine that can really aid and also bring some euphoria to the market. Economic growth also in Europe, GDP, European economy shrinks by 3.5% in the first quarter of the year, the sharpest decline on record. The United States economy contracted by an unrealized 4.8% during the same period. The IMF says that the global economy will shrink by 3% this year. I think also for the academic, we should rethink also to focus. It's a lot of elements that the Mr. Chairman, as well as the esteemed dean and the colleagues, lots of topics that can be really subjects of research and empirical research at the university. Specifically here, what kind of role the IMF can play really in terms of risk management and also coming up with policies to mitigate such type of unforeseen events like this pandemic. This chart here, I will be very happy to share if you find this is useful with you, ladies and gentlemen. The recession is a recession inevitable, as we can see here that for China. And you can see here for this our forecast, this our prediction. Doesn't mean this is going to happen for sure, but already this some expectations about the state of the economy in the US, the UK, Japan, Italy. So overall, it's an anxiety really how things may move, if whether the economies will be moving toward recession. I think one of the colleagues maybe can touch. It will be also interesting to see in India versus, and also some in the Middle Eastern countries, for example, Saudi Arabia and emerging nations, what are the expectations? Although it's said that the coronavirus has plunged the world into a crisis like no other, it does expect global growth to rise. It's an optimist, some optimism here about the global economy, the global growth, to rise to 5.8% next year in the pandemic, if the pandemic fades, if, of course, is if here in the second half of 2020. I think that here in the United States, there's a lot of good news in terms of the decrease and how the measures that have been taken at the medical level in terms of dealing with the social distancing. There's a lot of measures. So the good news, many states are starting really opening back. And here I live in New York. It's taking a little bit more time. We got most of the cases, but the trend is, I think, is positive. Oil prices also crash of oil prices. This is already started in Saudi Arabia. The deal with Russia. But it's really has been deepened due to the pandemic. The crude oil price had already been affected by the row between OPEC, the group of oil producers, and Russia. Coronavirus has driven the price down further. Of course, this is good. It's not a good news for. It's not. I mean, it's not something that can make the decision makers happy, like in countries like Saudi Arabia or in the Gulf countries, that they depend mainly on oil export. Here in the United States, a set of actions that have been taken for more exhaustive, comprehensive list of measures taken by the U.S. government. You will want to visit this link. There's a link here at CNBC. But some of the important measures, but I think one of the positive moves taken by, I'm convinced, by the government, U.S. government, is to early to really, this is an open economy, and the country has been always open, but yes, there are the situation of the pandemic. I think the decision to really close and to limit the entry of from different for specific destination. I think it was a positive move in the beginning. I mean, so beside this, lot of actions in terms of March 6, Mr. Trump signed 8.3 billion emergency spending package. The Federal Reserve announced that it will inject up to 1.5 trillion in the financial system. That's make us a little bit remember the aftermath of the financial crisis 2008, 2007, 2008, quantitative easing and the reduction of the fund rates. The Fed cuts also rate to zero, and also the reserve requirements of banks are zero now. So that's also to ensure that enough liquidity is in the system. Mr. Trump also signs a coronavirus relief plan to expand paid leave. So there's lots of measures in terms of stabilization policies, fiscal policies to help people. Really, it's not their fault to people they receive checks in the mail. I mean, in order to or their checking account to able to sustain consumption. My colleague in the beginning we started talking about the importance of consumption in GDP, right? The Fed pledge assessed, the Fed pledges assets purchases with no limit. Also, some lawmakers are already discussing a second round of stimulus checks to provide some financial relief. So these are the measures. We cannot overall assess the impact. Now there's some economics here, finance, but also it could be social impact. Also the other aspects about how this is gonna impact votings and future international relations. But I think that we human species, we are very, very smart species. We have been able to, throughout history, to challenge lots of crises, lots of, just here in the US, the financial, the economic depression of 1929, 2 wars in Europe. And, but this, I think that's because of the capabilities of the economies, but also I think as humans, I think one of the major lessons we learned, the importance to collaborate and to work together toward the solution. Because you know, we all have family, we all need to concern to bring food to the table, regardless of the geography or the location. So just a few elements here. I think that specifically, of course, every country is different. I think potentials of India, it's I mean, are great also, or some other countries in terms of the population, in terms of the know-how, in terms of the characteristics of the supply, aggregate supply of every nations. Specifically for the US, the economy has been able to challenge the economic and the financial crisis due to many factors. The differentiation of the economic resources, the competitive advantage in many industries, AI, nanotechnology, machine learning, strong governance system, democracy, liberty and freedom, entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity and technological advance, and vast and developed financial markets and infrastructure. I think that's continue to it's continue to have the leadership, but it's very important to sustain this and to continue to invest in technology and science. Now, with respect to the opportunities, I would definitely we learned what was considered before like an exception: the use of technology, the use of Zoom, the use of Skype, the use of iPhone. Now it became like paying the electrics. It became like, I think that's, as the gentleman mentioned, indeed, that for everything, for every challenge or crisis, definitely opportunities will emerge. And here, so the more opportunities should emerge due to the shortage in the healthcare and the infrastructure investments. So some economists talk about opportunities to emerge, should emerge due to the shortage in the healthcare infrastructure. In the United States, definitely there's a lot of sectors, and I'm a believer. I believe in the open market and the open economy. I mean, I believe in a comparative advantage. But I mean, one can wrangle is whether to outsource some key social, I mean, excuse me, supply chain, like masks and gloves, medical gloves. I think, yes, even though if it's not a part of the comparative advantage, but I think if we want to build our specialization based on the comparative advantage, I think we need as a country to mitigate the dependence vis-a-vis one country by diversifying our trade partners. I think it's very important in terms of strategy. Potential increase of investments and joint ventures in the area of vaccine and cure research. I think more strategic partnerships can occur between countries, Europe, India, China, United States, an opportunity to reinforce international cooperation toward the design of an early warning system for future pandemics. So now we didn't expect this. Like when I talk to my students, either in the SUNY New Paltz or in Harvard, or even when I was in Saudi Arabia, I mean, I always discuss with the students about the importance to consider risk management as part of the strategy. We cannot disconnect risk management from strategic management. And for a nation wide, I mean, it was like unpredicted uncertainty. Okay, so what are the lessons to be learned from this? Should we have a fund? Should we have some form of cooperation between countries to say, you know what, we're going to need to put some money aside for some form of eventual potential pandemic, or same thing we can stand when it comes to green energy, for instance. So,
well,
so I think that, yeah.
Professor Malki, I think you have given a very, very absolutely relevant background of the discussion. And I would like to all the panelists to invite, because we have made two very important observations. One is that there is a chance of fall in the GDP predicted by IMF, while a rebounding of the economy. I think that was a very early estimate, I believe, because the pandemic has lasted so long that and this is unprecedented that the industries have came to a total halt, and therefore expecting a rebound of the economy could be a bit over enthusiastic. Then second thing is in terms of opportunities that you have raised. I mean, no doubt that telehealthcare and things of that kind and prediction of healthcare issues could be, and surveillance of health is a major issue and is a major opportunity. But I think that even that need to be taken with a cautious, that the political system may be interested and encouraged to take surveillance, and that would be a compromise on the privacy issues of the citizens.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for your important follow-up. This is my last slide, and I want to just say, you know what? I think that opportunities are there, but they gotta be conditions. One of the key conditions.
That is the point.
Is the governance system. I agree. So the governance system, and also the will among nations toward collaboration and transparency. I mean, a country like India, and I think it's a lot of potential, but also is a country that's I think that has good relations with the advanced nation, Europe, United States. I think that if China joined the club in terms of being more transparent and in terms of the way they communicate data, and also the way they manage the healthcare, and what kind of lessons, because we cannot just say, you know what, this has happened and that's it. We need to assess and to come up. So I think that the situation may vary from the type of the nation. Are we dealing with an advanced nation versus
that's very true. That's very true, Professor Malki. I think Professor Rishad would talk about the consumer's response to this, because we have the expert with us, and this is the supply side of the issues that have been raised by Professor Malki very correctly. But I would like Professor Rishad to respond to this from the demand perspective, from the consumer's perspective, please.
Yes, so thank you very much. First, I'd like to say thanks to the Honorable Vice Chancellor, respected Dean, Chairman, and ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, yes, there has been a change, with the consumer coming up. I have certain slides, so if you permit me, can I share some of my slides so that I can give you more insight about that? Yeah, give me a second.
I would request you to be a little quicker. That's the only request. Please go ahead.
Yes. So let me open the slides for me. Give me a second. Yes. As we have been telling that there's when there's a challenge, there's some kind of a crisis, there's an opportunity is always there. So I'm not going very far from 20 years from now. Like, I'm not talking about the Spanish flu, which was around 100 years back. So 2022, SARS came, and you've seen that Alibaba in the 2002 made the first profitability. They had that, and they made that online as most scalability. So in 2008, when we had this subprime financial crisis, we had companies like Uber, Airbnb coming up. As we know, like we moved ourselves quickly from the industrial economy to a human resource development economy, the knowledge economy, the circular. So I'm focusing on that circular economy where we had that collaborative consumption, where the consumers thought of like how we can utilize the assets properly. For having a better ecosystem of and Uber and Airbnb was a very good example for. So my slides talks about how we have converted these challenges into the opportunities. As we know, like traditionally a business, we are all linear thinkers. So we go on a sequential basis from stage 1 to the stage 2, and in fact, but the today's economics and today's business is actually on an exponential growth mindset. Yes. So perhaps that linkage is missing. And so in the linear thinkers, we think about percentage improvement, like 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. But the exponential growth mindset is times-wise, 5 times or 10 times. So that is perhaps the dilemma we are facing in today's world. As we see all across globally, unemployment has increased to a very high level. But it also gives an opportunity of having a lot of mushrooming of micro, medium, small, medium enterprises, startup of the new startups, self-employment. And you have seen the migration of the workers, for especially in the India, we've seen a lot of workers from industrial zones or industrial towns moving back to the villages or upcountry markets. So there's opportunity. In fact, maybe the workers may think about why we should not have that feeling of that entrepreneurship, start a new venture and maybe a cooperative venture. So this is another good opportunity. Conflicts, have you seen globally, we had regional conflicts, sub-regional conflicts were there all across the world. But now there's an opportunity. We have a common enemy today. And the common enemy is how we can able to encounter this COVID-19. So perhaps this is an opportunity for us, for all of the global players, whether it's a developed country, emerging countries, or underdeveloped, to come together on a single platform. So perhaps we have seen that in 2030 scenario, which was predicted by most of the economics, we can witness in 2020. So that's have been a little bit earlier than the earlier time. Disruption, we have seen that there's a disruption all across the board from various, whether it's tourism sector, hospitality, recreation, or we are talking about health sector. Technology adaptation, how fast the enterprise is able to embrace that technology will be the winners. So in academia, we see that how quickly, because we say the desperate situation requires desperate measures, right? So it's how we have immediately come back to the online distant learning, and also in the corporates, for example, now the thinking process was we are monitoring employees working. It was the leader or the CEO monitoring how the work is going on, but now today it is more result oriented. Irrespective wherever you in the world, it does not matter. And Google as well as Amazon has told them that you can work from your places, not 2020, but till 2021. So it's more focused on the result oriented than monitoring of the dynamics in our organization. Now, even the respective vice chancellor also talked about like how will the China will be breaking. There will be a new emerging market. Definitely there will be new emerging, but not now, because China has a very strong supply chain there, and it is very difficult to disrupt them. I understand, but there will be new shoots coming up, but the resilience of China is very fast, and we have seen that how fast they were resilient of bringing I don't know, I don't remember that the beds, how many beds they brought in a record time. So it's very difficult to disrupt them, but yes, it's an eye-opener for other nations for having totally dependent upon China for a long way. The success here will be a parallel ventures. Any organization which has a legacy of working need to have a parallel ventures. And if you have seen the telcos now. The telcos have moved themselves from telecommunications sector, they moved themselves to the fintech sector, right? Like Google Pay, they understand that, and maybe Google or Amazon may be going for health sector also in the future. So this parallel venture shift is taking place, and that's an opportunity for the organizations. Health vulnerabilities, another a very important aspect where we have hygiene. Hygiene will be embedded in all the aspects, whether you are going dining outside or whether you are having a conference or you're going wherever there's a social gathering, hygiene will be an embedded factor into it. I don't want to go into detail because of the time factor, but the focus point is in any aspects, whatever this process we do, hygiene will be part of it now today. Disruption, I just want to give you a few very good examples which I got for you. In China, there was a restaurant, it's in these COVID times, and they changed the model because dining in was almost prohibited. They changed the model because from the consumer perspective, they are delivering unprepared food, like frozen food, just take at your home, warm it, and it's ready to eat. And they tripled their business in this COVID-19 times. In US, there was an organization, they had 500 employees in this COVID time, and the CEO said, okay, we'll fire 100 employees. But the CEO was a more servant leadership, and they mutually agreed that the top management will be deducting 40% of the salary, 10% by the lower. They saved 30% of the total salary. Henceforth, that opportunity of not laying off was maintained, and it created that environment. So these are the live example which predicts that the challenges can be overcome with these opportunities. The market offerings, now in Dutch, there's a low budget airlines which says corona-free vacation. So they guaranteed a flight where there'll be a corona-free environment, flights and hotels. So this is, in fact, a new change taking place from the marketing perspective. I don't want to go more into detail, but this was a traditional model. We had the leadership top bottom, and then the leadership was focusing on how we can move globally or locally. With when you have diversity, you have opportunity of innovation taking place, and finally you're also taking care of the planet. But the new opportunity which is coming in the COVID-19 is that empathically sustainable is first. Earlier, sustainability was the last factor, but it is today. We have first concern about the humanity, the mankind, the society as such, followed by the wisdom innovative. We had innovative, but how that bringing that experience, expertise in a proper way. So it is in a friendly way. It is wisdom is not competitive, but it's an innovative or collective innovative way we are bringing this innovation. With hyper localization, how we can break through some reliable sources and having your own intention of the supply chain at various places where you are not dependent on other nation or other places, right? And finally, the servant leadership is very important. The leaders are empowering their employees and inspiring them to take decisions. So this is a new opportunity. Yes.
Thank you, Professor Rishad. Listening to you was a feast to the ears, I'll say. But yeah. I must really endorse your point of view that China's role is likely to be more vital to the world economy, and this also given the fact that when US could not respond to the world expectations as the leader of the international community, almost in a state of unipolar position. And while there are visible cracks in the area of Europe as well. And I think another very important point that you raised is the localization factor, which is vital for countries like India and of course China, because China has such a huge market that consumer they can not only export, but they can localize like anything. So that is an absolute advantage to them. We also have Veronica with us, who would be able to discuss. We have Paul Epping, So I leave up to them that who would like to make observations first. Yes, sir. Sir, we have Professor Tariq Mansoor to make some observation. Please, sir.
I'll just make 2 points before I leave.
Sir.
I've got another appointment. One is that I agree with, though I'm a layman and I'm not an expert in this field, but I agree with Professor Saeed Maliki that some rebound will definitely occur, especially in the tourism sector, hospitality sector, civil aviation, manufacturing. Because somebody who has not gone for a holiday this year, he will be desperate to go for a holiday next year. And everybody will try to travel after, as soon as things they normalize or we are able to travel. So definitely some rebound will be there, and maybe not everywhere, but in some sectors, definitely some rebound will be there. And as I mentioned, 4 things. The other thing is that the ultimate power rests with the political leadership.
That's very good.
So if the political leadership of the world decides that we cannot be dependent upon China, I think gradually China will be the loser. It is not going to be the winner. This is as a layman I'm saying. I am not an expert. But ultimately, in the long run, China will be a loser, as people, they don't have faith in the system. There is no transparency, as Professor Saeed Maliki has rightly pointed out. We don't know what is happening. So we cannot depend upon them. With the present leadership which we have in China, it is not the leadership of the earlier, the liberal leaders which were there. Now they have a totally closed system, opaque system. So the world cannot depend upon them. Gradually, the world will move away. Whatever things may become expensive. I know as a layman that Chinese products, they are very cheap, may not be of good quality, but they are cheap. So things, they will move. Because if the political leadership, I think they have taken this view in the Western world that we cannot be dependent upon China. So things, they are going to move, but they will move gradually. It is not possible to do things overnight. Nobody has a magic wand in his hand that in 1 month you are going to bring all the manufacturing facilities from China and put them in Latin America or in Southeast Asia. But gradually things will move. This will have a long-term impact. And there's a loss of faith in the Chinese leadership, and the people, they are not happy with the situation which has developed. These are the 2 comments before I leave.
That's very true, sir. Loss of confidence is one vital factor that you have raised, which will really inhibit the possibilities of China's increased role in the world economy. Can I request Paul Epping to please make some observations?
Sure. So I will share my...
You being younger, I'll give you the opportunity next.
I will
yes,
share my screen quickly and build on what Dr. Faridi said just. So I think in general that we have to think about that what brought us here will not get us there. Meaning that we have to do things differently. We cannot solve the problems with the same thinking that created them. And I think that how we organize our economy brought us in the situation where we are here. So we have to rethink our economy. So, and that means that an exponential crisis needs an exponential response. But also we created exponential fear, despair, loneliness. Don't forget loneliness through the quarantine, protectionism and fragmentation. All these things is what we see at the moment that is happening. Not only the effect on the economy. These are the underlying foundations of an economy. And it is all based on trust. We don't trust each other. We don't trust the data. We don't trust the people who are making decisions. And regarding the technology, what we see all the time, and I'm echoing Bill Gates here, we overestimate the impact of technology in the first 2 years, but we underestimate it in the next 8 years. And that is what always happening. What we see in the exponential technologies is this curve. This is an ongoing curve based on Moore's law. The capacity, the speed of computational power is increasing every 18 months, roughly. But what we see at the same time is that the price performance is going down, is decreasing dramatically. So I coined this 21st century ZIP 21. If we keep Moore's law in our mind, then we see that this age will, this century will have a 20,000 years of exponential or technological development. Think about it, 20,000 years of development. How can we predict the next 5 years if we don't factor in the impact of these technologies? So we are going from birth of the agriculture to the age of the internet. Not only twice, but we are going it exponentially more than that. So what are the exponential technologies? This is not all of them, but these are going to impact our society dramatically. And all these technologies, biotech, nanotechnology, blockchain, Internet of Things, XR, robots, are all empowered by artificial intelligence. So they will all be embedded in those technologies. And not only that, but all those technologies are also connected, leading to a kind of an embedded AI exponential technology system. And here we see how it is interwoven. So we have intersections, we have convergence of those technologies. And in itself, that will explode, that will accelerate. And we know the Gutenberg moment. When the book press was invented, the world changed because of information. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have about 20 Gutenberg moments hitting us at the same time. And we have to deal with it. So here, an example of mixed or extended reality. This is all what is happening today. The surgeon there in the green thing in the left corner down is visiting a real operation, whereas he is in London, he is in New York, and he is visiting a surgical procedure in London and advises the surgeons over there. Then we see if the convergence is going from robotics and nanotechnology and artificial intelligence, we get something like nanobots. And people may think, bah, that's all future, that is science fiction. By the way, science fiction today is science fact. But this is not, ladies and gentlemen, look what we have here already. This is a nanobot, not small enough, but it is already on that level that we see robots on that level. So what can that do to our health? It will observe our bodies from inside out instead from outside in. And this roadmap to abundance, because in the end, technology, exponential technologies will lead to abundance. We create an abundant world of information, of devices that we can use. And this path is what we always see. So the companies who are going on this path are always digitizing solutions, products, whatever. And then it will, at a certain moment, it will disrupt when it enters the market. But what happens after that immediately is that it will demonetize. And what economists don't see is that the same effect will lead to deflation. It is not the inflation that we build our economies on, it will deflate. And that will lead to a big, huge tension. But what we see. And after the demonetization, it will be democratized. It comes available for everybody. Like we are using Google today. It's for free. Everybody is using it. Oh, let's Google it. And it is always going from problem to abundance. And to give you an idea about deflation means, in 1980, this thing that you wear in your pocket was about 110 million. You need a building 46 feet high, a lot of power to make that thing working, and That is what we don't value anymore. That is deflation. It is in your pocket today. Another way of deflation is what we see here. The normal car companies who want to build a new or design a new car that costs about 3 billion. Local Motors is a platform organization with people around it who like to design, and they do it in 3 million. They do it in 3 months. They only have 50 parts, running parts. And you know, how can you compete with it? That is deflation. That is what we see. This is me with my grandson. And imagine when he is 9 years old, how will the world look like in 9 years or in 7 years from now? And let this sink in. The computation power 21 times, not 21%, 21 times more powerful, or brain imaging resolution, 128 times more based on Moore's law. That is what we see. Or drones. So, and if you see these kind of things, or let's say medical knowledge, 1 trillion times. So when we are 7 years from now, probably we can eradicate all diseases based on this. Then that all is empowered by artificial intelligence. And we are now in the phase of narrow intelligence, artificial intelligence. But what does that lead to? And the next slides are shocking. So we can now plot the AI. In the left corner down, blue, is AI dominant, only AI. Above there is AI in the middle, and in combination with human being. Then on the right, the orange one, is the human being is in the lead. And then the AI tool and human creativity is a kind of 50-50. And on the top, you see compassion is needed, and down the compassion is not needed. And left, you see optimization, and right, you see creativity and strategy. And the next slide, ladies and gentlemen, is this. All those jobs that we see in the blue part are all routine activities. They will all go out. Radiologists, hematologists, even those medical jobs will disappear. Even a surgeon will disappear because surgical robots are taking that over. And if you think that is stupid, that is not happening, it is already out today. There are completely autonomous robots doing surgery. And I think that we are also need to move to a purpose-driven future. What is the purpose of the economy that we have at the moment? Is the purpose only based on the GDP as the holy grail, that we have to grow, and that if we don't grow, then everybody is in a depression or in a recession? What a stupidity. Because the GDP has a lot of effects that we don't factor in, which is the erosion of our planet that is creating inequality. And if we have a purpose-driven organization or economy or nations or companies, then we are striving to make the world a better place to live for all. And that is what we are not doing now. So we have to rethink economies. And to go back to the vaccines that we were just talking about, I am not positive about it because the current COVID virus is mutating pretty fast. It is already 14 times mutated. So if we have a vaccine, what are we actually doing? Is that vaccine working? And to give you here another shocking thing, the existing drugs and the vaccines lack precision. Only the green people it is working on. That is less than 10%. So we are putting massive amount of trillions of dollars in finding new medications. And this is what is happening. So guys, open your eyes. This is not sustainable. We have to rethink the whole thing. And then about the optimism of countries, how they think they will recover. Well, this is the survey. In the gray area, you see that people are not really optimistic. and that has an effect on their consumption behavior, they are going to spend less. So what does that mean in the growth prediction of the GDP of 5.8? This contradicts it. And that is what we have to keep in mind. We have to factor in the behavior of people. And it is not only about the labor. Instead of labor creation, we have to think about how are we going to divide labor that is existing. Because technology will take over labor in a massive, massive way because it is cheaper. So what are we going to do with the people who now have more time? Not that we are creating new jobs. Of course, we need new jobs, but not the massive amount of jobs that we still have. But what are we going to do with the time? Are we going to decrease the working hours in a week? How are we going to fill that with money? Where is the money coming from? Are we going to tax the robots that are taking over the work of people? Are we going to tax storage of data, etc.? We have to come up with creative ideas. And that is my, my contribution to this impressive panel.
Well, thank you, Dr. Pal. It was an amazing thing, and the growth that you really talked about is the exponential growth, especially led by technological events, is almost terrifying because it reminds me of Yuval Harari, who really talks about the redundancy of the mankind itself while really being challenged by the artificial intelligence. But of course, your last quadrant gives a solace where you are talking about the possible interaction of the human factor vis-a-vis technology. Now, I would request Veronica to please come to the most vital aspect of human life, where we talk about the interrelationship of individuals and how it is being observed in the COVID period and beyond. I think before that, I would, our chairman, your microphone is off, Nawab. Please check out. Nawab, your microphone.
Professor Imran, from our childhood, we have been hearing ladies first, ladies first. But for the first time in my life, I see you change the system.
See, I consider her most vital because communication is the most vital thing. So, and she,
Veronica,
she will
you don't
play,
mind us.
I expect her to play the motherly role, where she would make all of us comfortable and gel into the whole system. Veronica, do you agree with my point of view?
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Because the modern lady is not an abla, as we call in our culture, is not somewhat weak. She is empowered one. She yes, please.
Perfect.
Veronica.
So we will be talking about relationships and why relationships amongst all that is happening around us. It's because we can no longer separate work and life, because 10 years ago we were talking about work-life balance. 5 years ago we were talking about work-life integration, and what post-COVID or COVID created for us is actually work-life merger, because most of us find ourselves working from home and having everything happening in the same space and at the same time. So we have work, we have a family, we have children, we have everything just evolving around and happening at the same time. So we no longer find ourselves in a situation where we can go from one place, work, and then this is life, and this is work, and this is life. So, and because it's something unprecedented, I wanted to really illustrate what, I'm not going to talk about challenges, because we all know what is happening and the strain that the COVID put on our relationships, and I'm sure many of you are experiencing that firsthand. But I want to talk about those silver linings that the COVID has created for people, and I want to illustrate it on one example. Let me move on with my case studies. So I want you to meet Tariq. And Tariq is the CEO of a medium company, and he has been very stressed about what is happening, and he's been extremely stressed about whether his company has a future, whether his company is going to go, lose a lot of employees and money. He already had to move some of the employees on the 60%, 50% of the salaries. So he's very stressed. And Tariq's personality has always been, Tariq would always have to edit his true, authentic self, true emotions, because he always needed to appear confident. He always needed to appear a leader, and he would always be very, it's the facade that he has to put on as the CEO of the company. But what happened with the crisis, with the pandemic, he finds himself feeling obviously much more vulnerable about the situation, and also being more comfortable to come across as more real in this situation. And because he was more comfortable to be real, and he was more comfortable to actually show his real emotions, and he was more comfortable to show people his personal life, because obviously when you're at a Zoom meeting with your employees, you have a dog running around, maybe kids passing somewhere, the wife, and it's inevitable that we actually open up more personal stuff to people that we work with, as opposed to what would normally happen. And the masks went off, and his team saw the real Tariq, and Tariq saw also more human side of his team and his company. And it created a shift. It created a shift which meant that the people who were demotivated by what was happening, they were actually more likely to serve the company, they were more likely to give, they were more likely to put more effort, to put more time, to really elevate the company from the crisis and take it forward. And that is the shift, that once you see something, you can't unsee it. And that's the shift that Tariq realized, that authenticity and especially vulnerability is actually not a weakness. It's a strength that when you as a leader become more human and more authentic, your employees are ready to give back. And so the cohesion of the team, the cohesion of the morale actually went up as a result of them no longer needing to put up that facade and actually admit that we are all very fragile, very vulnerable individuals that are trying to keep ourselves together, trying to keep the company afloat, and trying to keep our personal lives afloat. So that's the first silver lining, that despite all the stress, the fact that he was able, and the people that he was with were able to become more real, actually created a higher engagement and created a higher commitment, despite all the cuts and all of that. So that's number one. But let's just look at what's happening between Tariq and his wife. So this is Sarah. This is Tariq's wife. And Sarah, and because Tariq was working so hard building the company, he was spending so much time outside of his home. He was always not there when the kids were going through the major milestones. Tariq was busy working, and Sarah was growing increasingly frustrated with the fact that she had a great overload. She was always busy with being a homemaker, being a housewife, being a mother. And Tariq didn't feel appreciated for everything that he does for his family, because everything that, all the work, all the hard work, all the long hours he was putting in for the family, but Sarah didn't see it that way. So what happened during the crisis, when they had to work from the same space, when they had to work from the same, you know, in the same home, they actually had a chance to have a glimpse of each other's worlds. Sarah actually saw Tariq being stressed, dealing with emergency, calling on people. She overheard all the conversations. She saw the pace, the stress, the pressure, and everything that Tariq has to deal with on a regular basis so he can provide for the family. And conversely, Tariq was also exposed to more time with children. He had to, you know, be more involved. He had to help out. He had to be there physically, and of course, personally, and so on. And he also realized how much pressure she's under by being a homemaker, by bringing the children, and so on. So when they actually realized how much contribution they've brought to the family unit and how much hard work went behind the scenes that they haven't seen or they haven't been exposed to, the appreciation for each other grew, despite all the stress and despite all the bickering and all the stuff that went on when they were in such a close proximity to each other. The appreciation for each other's world and for the pressures that they are handling, each in their own domains, in each of the areas of responsibilities, grew. And that appreciation led to compassion. It's the compassion and within the couple that the situation created when they had to really observe each other in their own world and actually look at the pressure they were having. And lastly, Tariq's community, when Tariq was thinking of how do I sell my products, how do I market my products to my clients, and he knew that he can't continue business as usual. He knew that he can't just continue to market, to advertise, to sell without showing a high level of empathy to his clients, high level of empathy to his suppliers, high level of empathy to the entire chain involved in the operation of the company. Without showing that level of empathy, without showing that level of certain leadership and compassion for what is happening in people's lives, he knew he has to change the way, the not only on the behavior, but actually on the value level of his company. And that shift needed to happen pretty fast. That major value shift from being focusing on the results, on the quality, on all the usual things that he used to, actually moving towards compassionate leadership, servant leadership. And it's the moving from how do I get, provide you what you're looking for, to actually how I can help you with my product in other areas of your life. So it's just much more holistic approach to doing business and the relationships that he had with everybody within his community and within his business. And those are the three areas that were positively affected despite the major amount of strain and stress that they were under. And this is the shift that I know Tariq won't be able to reverse. So once you have seen what vulnerability and authenticity and the true authentic leadership provides to their engagement and the connection with the employees, you can't undo it. Even if the post-COVID things would get back to normal, that's the major lessons and the silver lining that he learned for the rest of his existence. And the same appreciation that he has with his wife, and the same appreciation that he had within the people that he's selling and providing the products to. And that is pretty much all from me. And I just wanted to leave it at that the work and the life and relationships and business are now not even integrated, they're merged, they are one, and one is impacting another in a much more profound way than it ever has, and it will continue to stay the same. And I predict the companies going forward really focusing on the power of human connection and the power of compassion, as opposed to doing business, getting stuff done, and focusing on the results. So that is all from me, and I'm more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Veronica. You actually touched upon everybody's family life during COVID. Thank you very much. Though I have just one observation to share with you, that a very recent report that I have gone through in Hindu, one of the leading newspapers of India, which says that the gender issue has been discriminated even during COVID, and they are under tremendous pressure, given the fact that they have to meet all the challenges of having a husband, the bigger child in the family, and of course the other kids. Anyway, we have a lots of questions for Dr. Saeed. Professor Saeed, I would request you to take up some of the important questions.
Yes.
Thank
You very much. Yeah,
sure.
Briefly, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the participant presentations, and this is really multidimensional, from psychology, organizational behavior, human behavior, as well as technology, finance, economics, business perspective. Just quickly, and this is to my colleague Paul. Despite this tremendous progress in technology, but yet it takes a lot of time, right, really, to identify how they're going to process, how they're going to deal with the pandemic. So that's make me also recall in the field of economics, that is a lot of progress in nanotechnology and in AI, and yet, and at least at the level of advanced nations, there is a stagnation of productivity. So it's really a question that is raised amongst economists. How comes in the world that despite all of this technological progress, productivity has been stagnant, at least in advanced nations? With respect to my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Faridi, it was great, and it's always a pleasure when you bring the perspective of multinational companies such as Google and Amazon. I would suggest that maybe we can work together in a piece of paper in the future, that we can also, the dynamic in terms of comparative analysis, or what we call economics development, to compare with companies in developing nations, because Google and these are multinational giants. And what's happened in Sub-Saharan, what's happened in the Middle East, in North Africa, you would be surprised that today and nowadays in Morocco and Algeria, because of dictatorship, because of inequality of income, because of gap between poor and rich, and people, there are some people, they don't have smartphones, some people, they don't have laptop. And so the connectivity issue, I think that is important to compare and to see what are really the challenges when it comes. I am worried about the potential, even that the gap is going to increase between advanced nations and developing nations. I think that requires some form of actions of like the IMF, the World Bank, and maybe even the United Nations to say, okay, we have some new challenges here. I mean, that's a bigger question, but I think it's in terms of required comparative analysis, right, between developing and advanced nations. I have a few questions here from my dear colleague, Dr. Intizar. I'm so happy to meet him in this setting. And also a question from Professor Lubna. And she asks, I don't know, I mean, I will be happy to answer this question. It's not in the core of the, excuse me, of the session, but I will be happy to, she asks really, but in a way it is, because she asked a question, okay, what are the shares that you propose to buy in this, I assume in this environment of pandemic? Well, I mean, it all depends. Are you a trader, or if you are an investor? If you are trading, I would say day to day, do a chartist analysis, do some moving averages, and you may look at the trend. But if you are an investor, definitely you want to wait and see, and to study the fundamentals of the economy, the inflation, the monetary policy, the GDP growth. So it's all depends. So I would say, based, I think There's a lot of uncertainty. Probably I would propose what we economists or financial experts call a passive portfolio management, and at least until we see, you know, what are really the prospects. My friend Dr. Intizari asked me a question about when we were working together back in Saudi Arabia. It was question about how U.S. companies responded. Well, I mean, companies, I think that's the thing is, this was the boost from the government. There's a lot of money and liquidity. The goal is to help really people and people to cope with this. But at the organizational level, I think many companies they have to go along with some new measures about social distancing, and as Dr. Faridi mentioned, you know, this hygiene aspects, it became like the rule now. But they are going back slowly and surely to normal. It's going to take some time, but there are a lot of risk involved in terms. But by my opinion, I think we cannot be in a waiting move forever. Somehow we need to you know, to go back, to start going back to work. This is life. Risk is part of life. I hope that's I answer your question.
We have another question for Professor Paul Epping to explain a little about ZIP-21 having 20,000 exponential technology power.
Yeah,
this comes from Sudhir Kumar.
Yeah, I just saw it and I was already answering it in the chat box. But what you basically see based on Moore's law is that the computational power is doubling every 80 months, roughly. And just think about the computational power when quantum computing hits the market in a couple of years from now. That accelerates what I mentioned in my presentation, the other digital technologies. And those convergence accelerates in itself. And if you just follow that doubling pattern, because that is key, then you come up with something like 20,000 years of technological development. What people usually don't understand is that last doubling is if you go from 50 to 100, that really explodes. And we expect that in the second half of this century. But all based on the computational power, because that is the key factor.
Well, I have a question from Professor Faridi.
Yes,
can I request? See, sir, there is a tremendous change in the behavior of the consumers at the moment. Do you see it lasting after in the post-COVID era as well? I mean, the change that has taken place, is it likely to last there? This I have been discussing with Veronica as well, that the relationships which are going to change in this COVID era, is it likely to last later on in the post-COVID era? Please.
You know that there has been a shift in the marketing in terms of the consumer was focusing more on the product and services, and marketer was focusing on how he can able to give the market offerings. But there has been because of the customer engagement technologies, it has moved towards experience. How we are able to elevate and accelerate the experience of a consumer. But now with the COVID-19 coming up, what I perceive is that it will be all game of online businesses. Most of the things will be, because in order to scale up, in order to be competitive in the market, you have to have this inbuilt model of online. Amazon is there, Walmart is there, big grocery stores have started taking as online as a very important and competitive advantage tool in order to be connected with the consumers. The advantage we are getting in this business of online, in the digital transformation and from the marketing perspective, is that the startups are having that advantage also because of that exponential growth and because of that the adaptation of technology, and that technology is able to compete with the giant players, maybe like Amazon, Google, or Microsoft or somewhere. So this is a very good news for startups, especially that how they are able to compete because of on the technology background. So who reaches first to the consumer, and who's a person who's able to give that novel idea? That is the thing, is that the legacy of the big organization is fragmenting, it's breaking down. So I think this is the new trend, what I feel about it is. And the second thing, what is more important, is the compassionate marketing is also coming up. It is no more marketing of just, you know, building relationship and providing value to the consumer, but how much you are empathic towards your customers, how the company looks in the shoes of that consumer, of his sufferings, of his pain he's having. So this is a new paradigm shift which is taking place, and it is how compassion and there will be in marketing, there'll be two things which will be important: the human touch and the touch, technology touch, and the human touch. How the marketer will be bringing these two things together in order to move forward with that. So that's
so I think largely the discussion percolates that it is all about human force and the technology. How well we gel these two would actually define the world in near future. We are likely to restructure. Sure, Veronica, please.
Very short. I totally agree with Dr. Faridi. I want just to add another point, that it's also going to be focused on community building. So the consumers will be looking to build.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, very good.
It's the sense of belonging that we grew to appreciate during the COVID-19 and during the isolation, which the world was already moving in that direction anyway, because it's all about creating the user experience, belonging to community, and now it's going to become much more important. So the companies will be looking, the brands will be looking to not just create a consumer experience, but also build a community around, so the people would have a sense of belonging to a group. And obviously it could be, so I just want to add that part, which is going to feature very prominently going forward.
Thank you, Veronica. I would just take one more question from somebody, Mr. Tariq Intezar, how US companies responding to COVID crisis, and any lessons. I'll say in place of US, can we have some lessons from the responses that have been made by anybody, any organization, any unit, any government? Are there some common lessons that we can take?
Well, I mean, here in the US, I think at the university level, I think it's the same thing in India. All universities, they are doing online delivery now, and they're utilizing technology. But with respect to like construction organizations, for many states, there is phases, and phase 1, phase 2, and organization, they have to be in line with the standards set by the government. At the federal level, it was a team, but also at the state level. But as long as they fulfill the standards, so in terms of, I think there are some industries, they are already back, but some others that they will take more time to start. But I think safety and communication, and also the civil behavior, really, in terms of respecting the guidelines, social distancing, and I think that it has been really tremendous. I think people, the citizens and the residents of the nation, I think they have lots of credits of the way they really follow up with the guidelines.
I think it had been a very, very fruitful session. Before we close, I would request Mohammad Nayyar Rahman to please. Sir, you want to say something, please, Dr. Faridi. Nayyar, please hold on for a while.
Yeah, just because India, focusing on the India, what I personally feel is there will be a lot of startups coming up, and it's just want to share my wisdom, and Paul will be agreeing to me also. That the startups did a research, and they found out what made these startups as unicorns, like 1 billion evaluation, and this found that the MTP, the massive transformative purpose, backed by the passion and with the moonshot thinking, has created them, and from the linear startups to making them exponential. So this is what I look for all the startups to focus on this. Paul, you want to add something to it?
I would like to comment on Professor Mikey about the production decreased. It is all a matter how you are looking to at production. If we, for instance, see in the Play Store and in the App Store, how many applications have been built, but it is all digital.
Paul, productivity, not production, productivity.
Yeah,
productivity.
Okay, productivity. Look at those kind of things that people are developing in the digital world. That is not really tangible. Those kind of things changed our entire society. And how do you calculate that? And that is I don't know how you do that. But those things influenced, let's say, the productivity of other people that we probably don't see, and are not seen yet, or we cannot measure it. And that is the lack, I think, of things like a GDP, because we cannot factor that in, because we don't understand it.
Yeah.
That's why we need a new model, and that is what I'm going to present on the 20th.
Of course, Paul, I endorse your point of view that we do need to evolve a new economic model which actually imbibes more of invisible contributions to the society. Now I would request Dr. Nayyar Rahman to please put a word of thanks on record.
On behalf of the Aligarh Muslim University in general and Department of Commerce in particular, I thank all the panelists who have given their valuable insights on the topic, invisible opportunities post-COVID-19. Specifically, I would like to thank Professor Saeed Maliki from United States of America, who has given valuable insights such as the corona pandemic and United States of America situation, global economy shrinkage, expectations from a recession, etc. And considering his time frame, at this point of time, it is midnight over there. So, sir, we thank you very much for your valuable insights and for your time which you have given to the audience and to all of us. Then I also thank Dr. Muhammad Rishad Faridi Sahab from Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He has contributed with valuable points such as technology disruption, consumer perspective, new emerging markets with respect to China, and what is the future of the world. Thank you, sir, for your valuable insights. Then I am also thankful to Paul Epping from United Arab Emirates with new insights on the future of the world with respect to COVID-19, such as the exponential technologies, artificial intelligence, robotics, etc. And his ZIP-21 with 20,000 computational power has interested lots of attendees and viewers on YouTube, and they're posing questions, and it will go a long way for the audience and the viewers to research on this and to learn more about artificial intelligence. Thank you very much, sir. And I'm also thankful to Ms. Veronica, who has talked about the relationship and communication. And I'm also, I should mention her time frame also, because it is very early morning over there. And she told me in the beginning of the session that whole night she was awake just to participate in the session. So we thank from our part for your efforts to join this particular session and to contribute with your valuable insights and ink of knowledge. And in the end, I'm thankful to the patron of this webinar, live webinar, our Vice Chancellor, Professor Tariq Mansoor Sahab, our Dean, Faculty of Commerce, Professor Imran Salim Sahab, and our beloved Chairman of the Department of Commerce, Professor Nawab Ali Khan. And at the end, without viewers and audience, because this session was also live on YouTube, we have audience on YouTube as well as participants over there. So without audience and participants, it would not have been possible for us to make this event a successful one. And I'm receiving requests from students of our department and on YouTube comment box that we should have more such sessions with the same panel. Particularly, they are asking for the same panel to have more insight, because this is divergence views and from different areas. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nayyar. And I would request all the panelists to please have a sustained relationship with us.
Can we share the emails, Professor? Can we share the papers among us, like the slide and the emails? Is it possible?
Definitely, yes. Definitely. I'll be in touch with all of you. Thank you very much.
I'm posting my email address that you can take and you can send there, and that will be circulated to all the audiences.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
That would be great.
This is nair49@gmail.com.
Thank you, sir.
I have also given my email, iscom.amu. That includes whole of my address, in fact, Imran Salim @commerce. So that is there. We can keep in touch. Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.